Welcome back to the Long War of the Chosen class guides for patch 1.2 and hopefully also going forward. Thank you all for all the comments, all the feedback on the first guide, on the first episode. Definitely lots we'll take into account, and yes, I'm bringing the blue and red boxes back. I think it's a little bit more visual clarity, even though it's a lot of fiddly work to make the boxes appear in the right spots every time, but yeah. It's worth it. It's worth it. I want to put some effort into these guides so they can be used. And also, you can skim through the guides and then quickly get something from the picture. Although I think getting the full explanation is probably worth it. That's what I'm doing it. Anyway, I'm kind of taking the easier classes for the first few guides, to iron out the system here and also to give me some more time to prepare for the other classes. So we're jumping into the Sharpshooter, and probably the least controversial go here would be the Holo targeting builds. I mean, the soldier runs around and Holo targets enemies, right? That's what they do. So you want your base Holo targeting perks. Anything that affects the Holo targeter, I think, is part of the core spec. There's very little room for discussion. I would say rapid targeting, making your Holo targeting not turn ending, also giving you the instant action Holo targeting. IDF, increasing your crit chance. Independent tracking, giving you additional time where enemies remain Holo targeted. This is especially useful like before you engage a pod. If you just scout them, you can already pre-Holo target them for the following turn. Vital point targeting is your big damage spike where suddenly all enemies you Holo targeted also take additional damage from all attacks or from all targeted attacks. Is it actually targeted or not targeted? I'm actually not sure. If grenades do more damage with enemies that have vital point targeting on them, I don't think so. I should know these things. Anyway, multi-targeting, AoE targeting, fantastic thing. And then the two skill rows I left open here for kind of the secondary is I forgot a blue box. Hang on a second. There we go. Nobody noticed. So the things there's a little bit open, but not so much, on corporate level. Phantom is kind of the primary pick, I would say, because allowing you to stay concealed allows you to basically fulfill two functions. You're both a scout for the squad, and also then the Holo target. The reason why I kind of put it more as an optional thing is because the Sharpshooter is not a very good scout. Shinobi Scout has a reduced detection range because of the weapon. The SMG provides reduced detection range, so it's easier to keep them concealed and keep them running around. While the Sharpshooter has bigger detection range, so you have the risk of getting revealed. So it's not the best scout, but what are your alternatives? Picking up center mass for if you take a shot, so that at least you do a little bit more damage. That might be okay, and I guess more importantly, leveling up a Holo targeting Sharpshooter is a little bit of a pain because they don't really secure kills, and kills are about a third of your XP usually until Master Sergeant. So it will be really slow unless you feed them some kills, and that's easier if they do some extra damage. That being said, I think in my actual playing experience, I've always gone for Phantom for that double role of scouting, even though on bigger missions, especially like an HQ assault, I would always bring a proper Shinobi Scout, and my Holo targeter would be standing with the other snipers and then laying down the Holo targeting from squad side range. The other flexible option here is on Master Sergeant rank, simply because there's really nothing that supports the Holo targeting here. So again, for the rare occasion that you take a shot, you can either make the shot count or I guess take 2 shots. It's not rare for the Holo targeter to not fire a single shot on a mission though, so it doesn't really matter. Well, really, this is whatever. You could even pick cereal just so that you have another button on the hotbar if you like that. I don't think it matters all that much. Now, when it comes to stats, there's basically two reasons why you're building a holo targeting sharpshooter. Oh, also a holo targeting sharpshooter is always going to be an officer. There's no reason not to give them officer training, which also makes them, again, a little bit slower to level up. So, going back to stats, there's two reasons usually why you build a holo targeting sharpshooter. Reason number one, you randomly rolled a sharpshooter class with a soldier that has abysmal low aim. We're talking less than 60 starting aim here. And you question whether or not they can fulfill the shooting sharpshooter role at all. Yeah, then you go with holo targeter because they don't need aim to holo target targets. The other alternative is you spotted the rare gem of a 72, 73, 74, maybe 75 base aim rookie, super high aim, and then you say, okay, there's an officer ability called Lead by Example, which gives other soldiers in the squad bonus aim based on the aim difference between the officer and the other soldier. So having a holo targeting sharpshooter with super high aim, with a perception PCS, the best PCS you can find, plus 11 perception PCS, you can end up with them having 20, 25 more aim than the other soldiers. So they give 10 to 12 aim then to everybody else just for existing. Right? We're not even talking about holo targeting yet. With tier 3 holo targeter, they give another 20 aim and 20 crit to all targets they holo target. That's a maximum, a phenomenal difference. So if you can afford it, if your roster can get away with training a holo targeter rather than using that high aim soldier as a sniper, it's absolutely worth it. I don't have a holo targeting officer every campaign, but whenever I have them, I'm super happy, and they're definitely paying off. It is noticeable. It's a huge aim difference, and then with a tier 3 holo targeter, the +2 damage on every target from vital point targeting makes engagements significantly faster. Alright, moving on to the Death from Above builds. Right, so moving to the Death from Above Sharpshooter, there's a lot more flexibility here. Obviously, for a Death from Above Sharpshooter, you want to pick up Death from Above. That's and I think one of the main functions in the late game is to disable big, scary enemies with Disabling Shot. Then the other core ability I marked here is Precision Shot, as in an extra damage shot. Although there are rare cases where you could consider Lone Wolf. Your sniper is usually away from the rest of the squad, and if you're really, really desperate for some additional aim, then Lone Wolf could be a choice. You're giving up a lot of extra damage potential, and especially burst damage, by giving up precision shots. That's why I didn't really put it in as a flex perk, but just pointing out, if you're really struggling for aim, then it's a consideration. Now, looking at the rest of the abilities, so similarly to this discussion between Precision Shot and Lone Wolf, on the Corporal rank you have Damn Good Ground versus Center Mass. Damn Good Ground giving you 10 extra aim, and if you're on the high ground, and as a Death from Above Sharpshooter, you should always be on the high ground. The question though becomes very quickly, do you need that extra aim? Or would you rather have +1 damage on every single one of your shots? And most of the cases, for me, the primary pick would be Center Mass. Again, it's also about a little bit getting past certain damage thresholds. Let's say at the start of a game, your sniper rifle does 4 to 6 damage. Getting +1 base damage, so your base damage is at 5, means you will guaranteed, as long as you hit and don't graze, one-shot sentries and I want to say other enemies that come in with 5 HP. You also have a much higher chance to actually one-shot all those 6 HP enemies like gunners and engineers. So getting past those little thresholds is actually fairly significant. So if you have a reasonably high aim sharpshooter, skipping damn good ground is probably the better choice here. I'm still leaving them both as viable choices, because also if we think back in the last campaign that I played, I was gifted by the game by some not so great aim sharpshooters, and we did pick up damn good ground to kind of compensate for that, and that worked out fine, but also was necessary to get the more reliable shots. Right, Staff Sergeant role. This used to be low profile always, because of course the auto targeting doesn't do much for you, and I don't even remember what the third pick was. Nowadays though, we get reposition here. If you take a shot at a flanked or exposed enemy, you get a move action, allowing you to keep up with the squad or reposition to a better line of sight position, or you're not moving at all and just letting that action expire. You get some value out of it, you lose some defensive value if you pick it over low profile. Ideally, your sniper is never in a position where he gets shot at in the first place, because, you know, they're behind the squad, they're in the back. So you probably don't need low profile. Then again, in those rare situations where the unexpected yellow alert flank comes in, and your sniper is sitting there on the roof in low cover, because let's face it, most roofs on high ground positions only have low cover, then you might be happy to have low profile. I don't think there's a right or wrong choice. My preferred choice nowadays is reposition, because I think I'm making a decent job of keeping my sniper out of trouble. Tech Sergeant. Preferred choice for me is Deadeye, another cooldown based extra damage ability similar to Precision Shot, at a slight aim penalty, but by the time you reach Tech Sergeant, your aim should be high enough and you should have a Depth Perception PCS for the extra aim. You should be on the high ground, you have the best possible scope on you, all that good stuff. Really banking in on reliably getting 100% shots, also with a good stock, right? You're probably worth mentioning, your typical action is you take a shot, get a kill, you get a death from above action, you use that extra action to steady weapon again for an additional 15, 20, 25 aim and crit on the following turn. And yeah, all that extra aim will compensate the aim penalty from Deadeye, making it a really high damage attack. Now, in some cases, aggression might be an interesting choice, and funnily enough, this randomly generated sharpshooter here rolled one of those cases where I would strongly consider aggression, and that is picking up Bring Him On here in the XCOM role, giving you a good damage increase on your crits. And for a sharpshooter, they might still be, they're usually the ones you take your first shots with, so there's all the enemies still on the field, so your crit damage scales still nicely, and your aggression also scales, because, you know, 5 crit for every enemy you see. So this kind of combination might then change your mind on, okay, instead of taking a cooldown-based extra damage attack, I'm gonna have some extra damage on each shot, as long as I crit. So, something to consider. In terms of Gunnery Sergeant, we also already mentioned, kind of disabling shot is a very good tool for late game enemies, sectopods, hive queens, gatekeepers, to a certain extent, Archons, maybe Andromedons, like anything that you really don't want to take in action. Super Heavy Max also probably a good target for this. On an HQ assault, disabling a general, also really good value. So I would probably always take this. I'm kind of think I might mention here that there is Hunter's Instincts plus 2 damage on flank targets. And if you have a team with reliable cover destruction, you get a lot of exposed or flanked enemies, and you would get that extra damage. But I didn't even put a box around this. I think disabling shot is just kind of necessary CC for any sort of big missions. And then Master Sergeant. We have the triple boxes here, although I don't think Serial is a good choice. But it's a fun choice. Serial is fun to use, getting multiple crits or kills per turn. But I think the more, like, my primary choice is usually double tap. It gives you more flexibility. It allows you to, kill one target and then use the second shot from double tap, for example, to disabling shot an enemy. Like, the downside is the first shot is going to be a standard shot, and any second shot can then be a special shot like Deadeye, precision shot, or disabling shot. Downside is then, of course, the second shot doesn't get your steady weapon bonus. So keep that in mind. And AMF is really, if you want that reliable high damage to secure your death from above kills, so that you can actually each turn get the kill, steady weapon again, kill next turn. For me, I want to say a couple years ago, I was strongly in the AMF camp and would always pick that, and then I slowly shifted to the double tap camp and never looked back. So I think the additional flexibility, ability to engage multiple targets every other turn, is just so much more value than the potential 6 more damage you get here, that it's proven to me that it's the more reliable choice. In terms of gear and PCS, I already mentioned you want to have depth perception PCS. You could go for a regular max perception PCS, but I think the difference here is really, so depth perception PCS gives you 5 aim if you're on high ground compared to the enemy, and it reduces their dodge. The best regular perception PCS is 11 aim, and I think for the just 6 aim more, you're just suddenly competing with your gunners, your rangers who want that perception PCS potentially, while you can get away with taking the depth perception. And the dodge reduction is a really nice thing to have against some of the more dodgy targets, like various snakes, various chosen, or archons. Alright, finally, we're gonna take a look. Oh yeah, hang on. Obviously, not an officer candidate. Don't even think about it. Alright, moving on to the Snapshotter. Alright, Snapshot Sniper. I have a little bit of a rough time here actually nailing down the reds and blues. Obviously, as a Snapshotter, you wanna have Snapshot, but after that it becomes a little bit fuzzy. So I think my core perks would still be reposition, allowing you to move out into the open or onto a flank of an enemy, take a shot, and then skedaddle again. And then also, since we're kind of very mobile sniper and moving around, and hopefully allowing us to get flank shots on the enemies, picking up Hunter Instincts for the extra shots. That being said, I can see an argument being made, also, again, low profile for the same reasons as before, but I think I'm not enough convinced here to mark that as a flex pick. I think reposition, being also one of the newer perks with 1.2 in the Sharpshooter tree, is just kind of crucial for the Snapshot. Sharpshooter to continue to be mobile and to also then survive and get back to safety. I can see an argument to be made for disabling shot, just because it is so good as a perk, so good as a control tool late game. And in my last campaign, I very often found myself in a position where I needed a sharpshooter for a mission and wasn't considering my snapshot sharpshooter simply because they didn't have disabling shot. And missing out on that tool kinda sucked. That being said, if you're picking up disabling shot on your snapshotter, well, why didn't you build him as DFA in the first place? So it's kind of you're kind of neutering their defining characteristics. All right. Talking about the other rows, very similar things apply to what I said before when it comes to the Death from Above sharpshooter. It's a question of what is your base, your starting aim? Do I need to compensate for the aim with abilities like Damn Good Ground and Lone Wolf, or do I have enough aim that I can go reliable for extra damage from center mass and or precision shot? I think one of the big changes in one of the recent patches was to make special shots like precision, like Deadeye, available for a snapshot build. Previously, you needed to have 2 actions to use these abilities. Now they can be fired after a move if you have snapshot. So that really makes the whole snapshot build more viable and gives it more flexibility. As a rule of thumb, you are much less likely to be on the high ground as a snapshotter. If you can, of course, if you can be on the high ground, great. But Damn Good Ground isn't as reliable as before, and I wouldn't just, always only look for the high ground. You can take low ground flanks, so center mass is probably the more preferred pick here. And while you're a snapshotter, you usually can get really good value out of Lone Wolf. They will be away from the rest of the squad, probably. I think having one cooldown-based extra damage ability like Precision Shot is just very, very valuable and absolutely worth picking up. And then over here, now, Snapshot Sniper tend to have like slightly lower aim. They tend to not have a stock on their weapon, or maybe they didn't get an opportunity to steady weapon. So basically their aim ceiling is a little bit lower. So with Deadeye, you might fall off. You might fall off there. So aggression might be the better pick, because also to make up for it, you're kind of more likely, since you're mobile, to flank enemies, to get some of those flank shots in. So you get the 40% crit chance from a flank, and if you can get some nice aggression numbers up, and maybe even if you can get away with it, have a laser sight on your weapon, you're pushing close to 100% crit with some other, more help from the team, and that can pay off. But I think both are viable perks. I think aggression, though, might be the better choice, simply because you don't have the spare aim to compensate for the aim debuff from Deadeye. Master Sergeant, again, I'm kind of thinking AMF might be a slightly stronger pick here on a Snapshot Sniper, but I think all are kind of viable. In our last campaign on our Snapshotter, we took Serial, we used it, I think, once, maybe twice in the whole campaign, which was fun to use, but I still think one of the others is probably the more consistent pick, but it's not a dead pick, right? I'm still okay putting a box around it. I just think for more consistency, one of the others might be better. Right, both for the Death from Above Sniper and for the Snapshot Sniper, you're kind of looking for your high aim, above average aim soldiers. I think a Death from Above Sniper can get away with slightly lower aim because of the whole get a kill steady weapon rhythm that they get. Anything, I want to say 67 and up is fine, but yeah, again, with the early game perks here, then with Lone Wolf, you can kind of compensate for even lower aim soldiers. Mobility for a Death from Above sniper doesn't really matter as a stat. They're mostly stationary, and once you get grappling suits, they can catch up with the squad fairly easily. It's really just a matter of managing your grappling cooldown. Ideally, you only want to use it if you really have to, and not just the typical that I often see people like, oh, I have grappling cooldown. Turn 1, they grapple up on some random roof that they could have just walked to. That's not what you want to do with grapple. Grapple is a strong ability cooldown that you want to keep for the right situation. Yeah, then the Snapshotter wants to have a little bit more mobility. Ideally, nothing below average. Like 15 is kind of the low end where I would consider Snapshot, and everything higher than that is kind of great, but higher mobility soldiers tend to have lower aim. So having a 16 or 17 mobility soldier with high aim is probably a rare find. And you know, looking at a sharpshooter like this, again, this is randomly rolled here in a fresh, untouched campaign. I would be struggling. Like this is such a good stat line. And then you have Bring On down here. Man, this could be a fantastic Death from Above sharpshooter. That could be a decent snapshotter, and the aim is even high enough. I think that's 73 base aim. So yeah, that would also make a good holo targeting officer. Decisions. Sensor overlays. I think that's 10 crit for everybody. You can see that is yeah. You know, this is a good thing I don't have to play this campaign here. Anyway, let's start looking at XCOM perks. Let's head over to the wiki and look at the full picture. Alright, here is the list of the XCOM perks, and of course a lot of it is kind of straightforward, I want to say. Depending on what kind of subclass you choose, some perks make sense, some perks don't make sense at all. And the question is then always, what do you do with your... how many points do you have actually to spare? Now, when it comes to pistol skills for a sharpshooter, I think mostly not. Maybe on a snapshotter. Like ideally, the way I usually like to play a snapshot sharpshooter is keeping them just slightly outside of line of sight. You know, that they're still using squad sight, but they're like 2, maybe 3 tiles back. So that would be out of range for pistol skills. And most of the time they have something else to be able to pick up. So let's focus on the really high value skills, and that kind of starts here on tier 2 offensive. Impulse, for example, is a phenomenal skill for any snapshotter, right? If you moved, 10 aim, 10 crit. Fantastic. This basically, it's kind of ghetto steady weapon, right? For a snapshotter. Really good pickup. Lead the target, I would say, is probably one of the strongest XCOM perks you can pick up, because this gives you a new tool how to engage enemy groups. You basically select an enemy, click on lead the target, and the next time they move or take an action, you take a reaction shot against them. And that being said, it's actually not a reaction shot, it's a delayed shot. So you don't get the Overwatch penalty, the 30% penalty. You can crit with a shot. You actually get a 20% increased chance to hit. So this is a great tool to engage enemy groups. So it's something your Shinobi scouted, or your Reaper, or whatever else class scouted. You put a lead the target on, have everybody else on your squad outside the line of sight on Overwatch. Your sniper activates, enemies come in, Overwatch wipes them out. Fantastic. Then another great perk here, Bring On. We already talked about this a little bit in the previous section. Additional crit scaling might influence then your decisions on what you want to pick up. Concentration is a solid choice, not necessarily like something that I would base my game around. Everything else that I didn't mention here, it's like yeah, defensive perks, whatever. Tradecraft still kind of really disappointing every time. Locked on, how often are you shooting at the same target? It's all kind of very, very meh in the lower ranks. Maim has some utility, but I feel like the Maim utility should rather be on other classes. Your sniper is gonna have disabling shot later on, which is basically big brother of Maim. It is an additional cooldown now, so that's kind of nice. Long watch, I'm not convinced, since you can't control which enemy you're shooting at. The typical long watch experience for me is I have my sniper, put them on long watch because I want to shoot that specific group that I'm just spotting, and then a second group walks into line of sight, and I shoot at that group instead, and it just goes downhill from there. So lead the target is basically the better long watch, the much better long watch. Tier 3 defensive, combat fitness is kind of a nice point sink if you have nothing else to pick up, but generally it might be really good for a snapshotter that can take advantage of the mobility. It's really nice for a holo targeter. If you have a high aim holo targeter with lead by example, then that is not just 4 aim, that's basically 2 aim for your whole squad. Because, you know, half the difference between your aim and the other's aim gets added to them. That is a 2 aim group buff. That is really really valuable. Untouchable, you won't be able to take advantage of. Reconnoiter is usually quite nice to have, but if your sharpshooter is in the back, they might not be able to throw that battle scanner to anywhere where it makes sense. Trench warfare, pretty interesting to point out. No, hang on. Do we have? Sorry, I'm confusing this with a perk that also has the aim baked in, where you get aim for hunkering down. But no, that is not the case. Forget about it. It's not with 25 points. All right, tier 3 offensive, sense overlay, 10 crit for the whole squad. If you have nothing else, if you kind of need a point dump because you rolled bad abilities all around, that's absolutely a solid pickup. And again, holo targeting officer, that really combines nice with all your holo targeting skills. So definitely worth considering. Chain shot, I think doesn't. Chain shot and also rapid fire, I'm fairly certain don't work at squad side. So they might be interesting perks for your snapshotter, but not necessarily for a death from above shooter. Sentinel, like if you roll, you know, the golden sentinel, cool under pressure, maybe long watch, maybe not. Maybe a sharpshooter overwatch build could be useful. I think it's a lot of point investment for not so much payoff. Sharpshooters to me are always like the more directed, the more controlled enemy removal, and not something a little bit more random like an overwatch build. Then Predator is a nice one for a snapshotter that is more likely to get flanked or units out of cover here for the bonus aim and crit. Open fire, probably all around a good snapshot or death from above pickup. You're very often actually shooting at full health enemies, which makes overkill a little bit less of a good choice, you know. Dealing more damage to enemies that are on 50 HP or less. There's very few enemies that actually need the 2 extra damage to kill them with a good sniper rifle. Alright. Now, you're looking at your tier 4 perks and you're like, which one of those are worth picking up? Let's start it the other way around. Which ones are probably not worth picking up? Rupture is questionable. Again, like, we had the rupture discussion on the Ranger. Like, when do you want to rupture a target? Don't you want to, you know, shred their armor first? Also, as a sharpshooter, you probably, again, especially death from above sharpshooter, you want to take the killing shot so you can steady again for the following turn, and Rupture rather wants to be the first shot, not the killing shot. So not something I usually would consider on a sharpshooter. Then Implacable, kinda usually nice to have, but with reposition, we kinda already have the Implacable effect-ish. So not super high value. I don't think that's worth 35 points. Avenger can be nice. Yeah, I don't want to trash talk it, but it really depends. If all the rest of your XCOM row is kind of trash, yeah, sure, pick it up. But other than that, I think I value it lower than most other perk combinations. Really strong choice would be Run and Gun. That allows so much flexibility, especially for a death from above sharpshooter. Like suddenly you can move and shoot, or rather, you know, move, activate, run and gun, and suddenly you have 2 actions. You can take a regular shot. Other alternative is you shoot and get a kill, get your death from above action, trigger run and gun. You can take a second shot. Really one of the stronger perks for a sharpshooter, absolutely. Lethal, solid, extra damage, and if you like RNG, if you like gambling, if you like to get frustrated about a perk that sometimes saves your whole mission and sometimes does absolutely nothing for 5 missions in a row, boy, do I have a perk for you, Apex Predator. If you critical hit with a primary weapon, there's a chance to panic nearby enemies. Or maybe don't. Maybe you don't panic them. It's yeah, it's rough. I like it and I hate the perk. It's yeah. Chance to panic is 125%. It's negatively affected by target's will. And take from that what you want. I think it's hard to explain how good and how terrible this perk can be. You just gotta, you know, next time you see it, pick it up, play a campaign with it, and form your own opinion. For me, it's kind of on the same level as Avenger. It's like, yeah, sure, if I have nothing else on my XCOM row that I can spend my points on, I might pick it up. Like, it's not complete trash, but it's not reliable enough, and that's what I'm looking for with my sharpshooters, the reliable removal of enemies, and any perk that helps me with that is great in my book. Any perk that's a little bit more random, not so much. Alright, and that concludes the sharpshooter, and yeah, more classes coming up in the coming days. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.